Expo 2020 Dubai, as we know, was postponed earlier this year in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. And we at Construction Week have been getting insights from various participating nations and industry experts to know what does this mean for them and for various sectors. Joining me today is Laura Faulkner, the Commissioner General of UK at Expo 2020 Dubai. Thank you so much for joining us today, Laura.
Thank you so much for having me onto this programme.
Beginning from the ideation stage of the UK Pavilion, can you please explain what was the idea behind the pavilion's design and the theme?
With every expo that the United Kingdom is involved in, we set a challenge to the design industry in the UK. So on this occasion, the United Kingdom is at a stage in its development where it wants to tell a certain story, and that story is innovation. And so we picked our theme, which was to innovate for a shared future. And at that point, we asked the industry to give us designs that spoke to the theme of innovation, but also put a spotlight onto the United Kingdom's advances and its contribution to global technology and particularly artificial intelligence. And so it was that a design jury was convened to judge the winning design by Avant-Garde with Esdelin Studios. And that particular design was inspired by several different wonderful innovators that have existed in history, and one of which was Professor Stephen Hawking, who one of his final projects was to create something called a breakthrough message as part of the Breakthrough Project. And in that, he called upon all nations to think of a way to deliver a single, unified global message from every nation on earth that could be beamed or broadcast should we ever one day wish to encounter other advanced civilizations in space. So that's the story of why, and now it's coming to reality.
So since you mentioned that the theme and obviously the design focuses around innovation, artificial intelligence, so what exactly will UK show through its participation in Expo 2020 Dubai?
The United Kingdom is diverse and its industries are diverse and its interests are global. And so with that in mind, picking particular stories is always going to be a challenge because we have some of the, well, in fact, more Nobel laureates than any other nation. So for that reason, we have a broad theme of innovation for a shared future, but underneath that, we've spotlighted technologies, artificial intelligence, man, mind and the machine, and space exploration within this particular pavilion design. So I just also want to say that the pavilion is our calling card. It is our marker for participation. But the stories and the innovations and the conversations that we will be bringing to Expo are much broader still than that.
I mean, we know that Expo was postponed earlier this year in light of COVID-19. So what is your take on the postponement, and how do you think is UK Pavilion, I mean, the entire team, planning to move ahead with the one-year delay?
The UK has a long history of participation in Expos going back to 1851. The Expo team that I lead has been in place for well over a decade and has worked through Shanghai Expo and a number of other speciality expos, and of course Milan, which means that we're not new at this. And so we're always prepared for the unexpected. And sadly, in 2020, that unexpected has been a global pandemic. So much like other nations, we have rolled our sleeves up. We have looked carefully at what this means. We're still doing that. I think the whole world is still doing that. But what we can confidently say is that we absolutely have given our agreement and our support and our reconfirmation that the United Kingdom intends to come to Expo when it opens its doors, fully loaded with storytelling and absolutely standing next to the UAE in support of this great event.
Before we talk about construction, I want to understand how has the entire pavilion's construction, UK's participation being financed? Could you tell us a little more about that?
On this occasion, the whole of the United Kingdom's government, its private sector, and many of the stakeholders and partners and private sector companies across the UK all see a purpose and a value in participating. But it starts first with government. And so this is a government project, it is government funded, and a proportion of that will come from private sector participation.
What is the current scenario with the construction? What percentage of the construction has been completed, and what are the works that you are carrying out at the moment?
So we've mobilised 100%. The substructure, which is critical, is 96% complete, and the superstructure is about 40%, and facade at about 50% at the moment, and finishes, obviously, as you would expect, not so much, because that's the last part of the works. So in terms of percentages and what we're using, so we are using some new to the UAE, or relatively new to the UAE, techniques to build the superstructure. And so cross-laminated timber is being used to deliver the cone, the iconic cone that you have already seen and probably have in the pictures. And a wealth of materials, goodness. There's going to be a lot of glazing inside of it in order to protect that wonderful facade. We are using particular LEDs that have come from Asia. We are using tellies from China. We are using wood sourced in different countries. And we are using an incredible amount of locally sourced items as well. So it's truly a global pavilion.
Lastly, before I obviously wrap this interview, I want to understand when is UK anticipating to complete the overall construction work of the pavilion before obviously the expo starts in October 2021?
So current plan is to have completion and our building completion certificate in March 2021, very, very many months before we then have to open to the general public in October.
On that note, we've come to an end to this video interview. I would like to thank you, Laura, for joining us today and for giving us such insightful information about the UK Pavilion.
Thank you ever so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Don't forget to hit the like button and share this video with your friends and colleagues. And we will be seeing you very soon in another interesting episode. Thank you. Goodbye.